I'll always remember day by day what I went through for those 2 years. It would never leave me. It's like a nightmare.
The nightmare began when Lydia Fairchild was told the children she had given birth to could not possibly be her own.
I know I carry these kids. I know I gave birth to these kids. I feel like I was just the only one in the whole world trying to fight for my kids, and nobody in the world was listening to me.
Did I think the kids would be taken away at one point in time? I knew they would be taken away.
Every day I felt like that was going to be the last day I see them.
Lydia's fight to prove she was the mother of her children revealed a secret hidden deep in her body, a twin she never knew.
Instead of being twins or Siamese, she was one individual.
I feel more scared more than anything, like, what is this? And why me? This one is my first baby, Jamie. And this is, I think, the 3rd day home from the hospital. And that's me holding him there. And then here's another little picture of me. You'll see me a lot on the couch holding him. And I was so happy having him.
Lydia Fairchild had her first baby 4 years ago when she was 21. Despite being separated from the father, Jamie Townsend, she and Jamie had a second baby a year later.
You gotta go sit in there, buddy, okay? Okay?
And there he is looking like Elvis. I thought that was a cute picture.
Another year on, her world was plunged into even greater chaos. She was pregnant for the 3rd time by Jamie, when they split up again. With no steady work and unable to support herself and the children, she applied for welfare benefits. The state prosecutor's office required DNA tests from Jamie to prove he was the father. And as a matter of course, Lydia was also DNA tested. In December 2002, she received a phone call from the prosecutor's office.
He called me first, and I said, well, can't you give me the results over the phone? You know, I'm just finding out who the father is. He goes, well, you really need to come up to the office. So that's when we went up to the office, and I went in the back room. Just him and that lady sat there, just stared at me. And I'm sitting by the door in this chair, and they just stared at me. And I was like, so what'd we get? He goes, well, he's 99% the father. And I'm like, okay, good. Okay, we know he's the father. And they go, well, there's a problem. And they go, there's no way you're the mother.
Lydia was stunned. She couldn't believe the DNA results said she was not the mother.
At first, I kind of laughed. I was like, what are you talking about? And they were serious. I can just see the seriousness in their faces. I mean, they're just staring me down, like totally checking me out. And then they just started drilling about, are you Lydia Fairchild? Who are you really? Where'd you get these kids from? Did your sister have these children and you're taking them and doing welfare fraud? And they just went back and forth, just drilling me.
Lydia's results were extremely unusual. A normal DNA test proving a mother-child link would show a 50% match between their DNA patterns. Yet Lydia's test showed no match at all between her DNA and that of her children. Based on these results, the chances of Lydia being the true mother of her children were 1 billion to 1. The state prosecutors were suspicious. Even Lydia's family couldn't make sense of the result.
I believe my daughter. At the same time, I also believe the law had something against her. I believe that somewhere she did something, she was in trouble or something, you know. I've always had faith in DNA.
Lydia was adamant that the DNA tests were wrong and she was the true mother of the children. To eliminate any chance of lab error, the family was retested 3 times. Each time the result came back that the children weren't hers.
These are shots of when the first DNA testing took place. They took pictures of myself and the children, and they took swabs from us all. And this was done in the office of the prosecutor's office. So, and this is just, we've done so many testings. It's ridiculous, and I had to put my kids through that over and over and over again, having to hold them down, to have them draw blood from my children, and swab them was really hard. But it was something that had to be done at the time. I had no choice.
At that time, I was living in Vancouver, Washington, and I was working, and Lydia called me up, and she was hysterically crying. I couldn't make out totally what she said, but when she said that she got the test back and it said that she wasn't the mother, I just started laughing. I couldn't understand why she was crying. And I said, that is so stupid. They've got to do it again. She says, Mom, they've done it 3 times, and it's not working.
I mean, I couldn't eat for like days. I was like such a nervous wreck, shaky. I couldn't focus. I was just so like, what is going on? I know these are my kids. I know I carry these kids. I know I gave birth to these kids. I was so confused, and I was scared.
Every cell of our body holds the same completely unique DNA pattern. It is what defines us and makes us who we are. It is this individual genetic blueprint which a DNA test reveals. The tests are seen as a foolproof way of identifying people and their parentage. When a test result doesn't add up, there's a real mystery to unravel. Lydia had to find a way of explaining why her DNA didn't match with her children. But how? The future of her family was about to become dependent on the story of another mother. 2,500 miles away in Boston, Massachusetts, Karen Keegan, a 52-year-old teacher, was confronted with the same startling information. According to DNA testing, her children weren't hers.
It was very disturbing to try and make sense of whatever was going on with this. I knew that there had to be a scientific answer to why the DNA didn't match.
Ten years ago, Karen Keegan, the mother of 3 grown-up sons, needed an urgent kidney transplant. She, her husband, and 2 eldest sons had blood tests to look for a donor match from within the family. The results, when they came back, were shocking.
I got a call saying that something very unusual had been discovered. The DNA of my children did not match me, and they had never had a case where a mother did not match her children's DNA, which put me in a pretty unusual situation since I knew that they were my children, and I really just couldn't understand why on earth this had happened. I knew that then that the hospital had made a very bad mistake.
I think my mom and dad brought us over and said, well, we got something to tell you. They're telling us that you're not our children. Our reaction was concern, just because my mother's condition that she was in, with her needing a kidney transplant, not needing anything to rile her up, and she did seem a little riled up that she was angry that they came back and told her this information.
I did have times of thinking after I had told my sons that our DNA did not match, that somehow they might somehow think of me as less their mother. And that was very saddening to me. I remember feeling emotional about that somehow it was more like an adoption, or it was just not the same as being their mom.
Shocking though the information was, Karen was seriously ill and needed a kidney. Her sons were ruled out as donors, but fortunately, Karen's husband was a suitable match.
My husband offered to donate a kidney, and we both went into the hospital together. He was a couple of hours ahead of me, and his kidney was removed, and then I was prepared at the same time and then had the kidney transplant at that time.
The operation was only partially successful. Karen was still very sick. Within a year, she had to return to hospital and was referred to a new doctor who became intrigued by her story.
little by little and week by week, she started asking me questions about some of the issues surrounding the DNA and the children and the non-matching. And as I told her my story, I think her curiosity got aroused to the point where she knew that something was not right.
The doctor decided to test both Karen and her sons again. The results came back the same, but there was a puzzling new development.
My third son was tested at that time for the first time, and he was a match for me. I do remember thinking, are there certain physical characteristics that make this third son look more, act more? Is his personality more in tune with what my group of genes is producing?
The doctors at the hospital sought advice from senior colleagues for a possible explanation to the mystery. Transfusion specialist Lynn Earle sifted through their replies.
The initial responses that came back from many of our colleagues were, this mother is excluded as the mother of her two sons. The comments that were made to us included the fact that perhaps she had in vitro fertilization and she just didn't own up to that or want to speak about that, or that something else was amiss within the family.
Karen was a well-liked and respected member of her community, with over 30 years' service as a special needs teacher. Her doctors had no reason to suspect her of lying.
Well, on a personal level, it didn't enter into my mind because I had a well-established personal relationship with this individual and, was confident just based on conversations that she, in fact, was the mother of these two sons.
She realized that I was a pretty upstanding kind of person, that there wasn't something unusually crazy about the story of why my children didn't match me, and that it must be scientific in nature.
The doctors realized they had a medical mystery on their hands. Could they find a scientific explanation for Karen's results? In Lydia's case, the investigation by state prosecutors continued. She and her family feared a case for welfare fraud was being mounted against them. Her father had already been convicted over a business scam.
I was in prison over in Montana. The wife told me and everything and all that, we were about ready to lose our grandkids. And it was a startling bit of news to hear. I couldn't believe that she was even saying that. So I asked her, did Lydia get in trouble or, or what happened? And then she went and explained the whole situation to me. I mean, for me, my past was bad in their books, but I felt that they were making Lydia pay for it.
The suspicion spilled over to Lydia's estranged partner, Jamie Townsend. He too was interviewed by the prosecutor.
Okay, they came in and basically asked me what was going on. They said, Jamie, you're 99.9% the kids, and the mother is not the mother. And I told them, I said, how could that be? I seen the kids born. And they said, you were there? And I go, yeah, I was there. They thought I was lying. They thought maybe I had kids by one of her sisters, or maybe I had kids somewhere else and that we had the kids and we were just getting a check. I think that's the way it was put to me. Basically that we were running a big fraud.
The family knew they were under suspicion. Even the medical evidence they had of the children's births didn't seem to count.
I mean, I've been doing this long enough, I kind of can recognize when someone's given birth in front of you, and there's not really much mistaking that. The babies are footprinted at the time, and these cards are done right in the delivery room, and her file says you could prove that these are the babies that she had. And yet, apparently, even though that's an older technology that's been used very reliably in the justice system for years, but now we have the new kid on the block DNA, and all of a sudden they just didn't want to hear anything else.
Lydia, pregnant with her third baby, faced more questions from the prosecutor's office.
I write everything down, this is my diary, about what happened and what I went through emotionally and physically through the whole thing. 3 times I was brought up there to interrogate and left her crying so bad, hysterical, and not knowing what to do. 3rd interrogation, the 3rd one, they threatened me with a lie detector test, which I said, give it to me. And then I got a summons in the mail saying you're going to court. I just lay in my bed and just shake, so hysterical, like I can't believe this, what is going on? I'm gonna lose my kids.
The court hearing was to legally establish the children's parentage. The pregnant Lydia became increasingly paranoid. She was terrified she would be charged with welfare fraud and lose her children.
She was trying to be so positive, you know, for her kids, to show them that she's strong and she's gonna make it through this and that everything's gonna be okay. But it was so stressful, you know, and she's knowing, oh, this court date's coming up and oh, I gotta get mom down here, I'm so nervous.
She was hysterical. She was really hysterical, and she was calling and she would tell me what was going on, how they were treating her.
Did it ever really feel as though you were going to lose the kids?
Yes. Every day. Every day it felt like it. Every day I'd get up, get them ready, take them to daycare. And every day it felt like that was going to be the last day I see them.
Every day I remember just sitting over at her house and we were just watching a movie and someone would pull up to the house and she just gets scared, you know, what's going on? You know, who are they? And Sarah, don't open the door. She was scared every day that these kids were gonna be taken away.
You know, seeing them, their smiles on their face and their looks, I'd just start crying. And they'd come up to me and Jamisha would push my hair away to see what's wrong, and Jamie would come up, what's wrong? You know, and all I can do was hold them. Because they're so young, I couldn't explain what was going on. They didn't understand nothing. And I'd just hold them and just cry. It was really hard.
In stark contrast to Lydia's turmoil, Karen Keegan felt much more in control of what was happening to her. She and her scientific investigators were working hand in hand.
I willingly and interestingly participated in all of that research because, from my point of view, it had an awful lot to do with the way the justice system is moving in our country and the fact that DNA is becoming such an important part of the legal aspects, and because I was interested myself in finding the answers.
Karen offered herself up as a medical guinea pig, but the doctors were unsure where to go with their research, until an intriguing lead came in from their consultations.
It was actually a comment in one of our colleagues' responses in the letter that we got back that raised the possibility Karen is a chimera.
Chimerism is an extremely rare condition where people have not just one, but 2 DNA profiles.
It was clearly stated that this is a very rare event, and to have someone look externally normal, be able to have children, made it a very rare consideration and a low likelihood consideration. We picked up on that, however, and decided to embark on additional testing to establish whether or not Karen was a chimera.
Could Karen Keegan really be a chimera? If she had a second set of DNA, it could explain the test results. But the condition is extremely rare. There are less than 40 possible cases worldwide. Chimeras have inside their bodies 2 completely different genetic identities, created from separate sets of DNA. This can have severe consequences. Four years ago, in Texas, the surgeon Linda Baker was asked to help in the diagnosis of a possible chimeric case.
When I first saw this patient with chimerism, he was a very healthy, vibrant appearing baby. If you've saw him in his mother's arms on the street, you really wouldn't think too much about him because his absolutely normal appearing face. It really wasn't until we took his clothing off that you realized that things were a little bit unusual about the child. The child, in essence, looks in between sexes. It's not clear externally whether the baby is definitely a male or definitely a female.
The child was a hermaphrodite, and just as intriguing for the doctors were his strange skin pigmentations.
When I examined his belly, the left side, below the belly button, was all of fair skin in this African-American child, whereas on the right side below the belly button, it was a much darker pigmentation. It was so marked that there was literally a line that one could draw with your finger from the belly button straight down toward the genitals. That unusual skin pigmentation obviously piqued my interest, but at the moment I really didn't realize what it was all about.
The baby was examined internally to find out more.
Internally, on the left side, there was a partial uterus, a fallopian tube, and then an ovary. On the right side of the child, which was again the side that had the darker skin coloring, there were the male internal ducts. In addition, the male sac, the scrotum, that would normally carry the testicles, was only developed on the right side and was not developed at all on the left.
It was as if the baby was two people glued together, a boy and a girl. The hermaphrodism and the unusual skin pigmentation indicated that the child could be a chimera, but more detailed tests were needed for a true diagnosis.
The blood test is what showed this unusual chimeric chromosomal situation. I felt the case was quite remarkable. Just the constellation of the abnormal skin changes with the external genitalia abnormalities. There's only so many things that could be, and it really fit that the child would be a true hermaphrodite and be a chimeric.
The child in Texas had the DNA for a woman and the DNA for a man. Twice as much genetic information as a normal person. How could this be? No one knows for certain. The secret lies in the womb. One theory is that very early in the process of development, two individually fertilized eggs are fused. At this stage, the fertilized eggs are simple cell clusters, but each has its own distinct DNA. The process of fusion then incorporates the two sets of DNA into one embryo. In the case of the Texas baby, the two early embryos which fused were male and female. The fusion can also result in unusual skin pigmentations which are common amongst the other known chimera cases in the world. The markings are very unusual. This chimeric hermaphrodite's body was covered in a checkerboard pattern. In Karen Keegan's case, there were none of these external symptoms. How could she be a chimera? The doctors had little to go on and a lot to prove. Lydia Fairchild knew she would have to face a court case to decide the parentage of her children. Time was running out, yet she had no way of explaining why her DNA didn't match that of her children, and no clues as to the way forward. In Karen's case, the doctors did have a lead. They suspected she had the rare condition called chimerism. To prove it, they had to find a second set of DNA hidden somewhere in her body. Her doctors got funding for a dedicated research project. They enlisted the help of immunologists at the American Red Cross and Harvard Medical School.
My goal at that time was, so there's two sons of this patient. They carry paternal genetic information. There's no maternal genetic information in these two children, apparently. We believe this patient, this is her children, and we just need to find out genetic information her children's genetic information anywhere in her tissue, her body, anywhere.
The first place to look was Karen's blood, but the blood test clearly showed only one set of DNA. The scientists needed to test other parts of her body.
Well, our next step was to begin to look at other tissues than blood. As I've said, a chimera is a result of fusing of two genetically distinct fertilized eggs. And within that process, there's the distinct possibility that other tissues, such as skin cells, hair, would have evidence of other antigens that aren't present in the blood cells. So our next step, in fact, was to look at tissue that was easy to get at.
For quite a while, I did not know where she was heading. Week by week, she would come in and ask if maybe she could have a hair sample, or perhaps scrape the inside of my cheek.
Disappointingly, these next tests still revealed no traces of a second set of DNA in Karen. To progress further, the doctors decided they needed samples from her internal organs.
She'd had some prior surgeries, and we were able to actually go and retrieve specimens that were in the pathology department. One in particular was the thyroid tissue. She had had a thyroid nodule removed, and we examined that tissue, and also tissue that was obtained from her bladder.
The tests were painstaking, and it would be many months before Karen's diagnosis could progress. But Karen's doctors were determined to understand the mystery of her DNA. It was completely different for Lydia Fairchild. Like Karen, her DNA test said her children weren't hers. Yet no one dealing with her case had even heard of chimerism. And she was about to go to court to establish the parentage of her children.
I called every lawyer, local lawyer, that I could in the phone book, and I could not get one lawyer to take it. They said, well, obviously you're not the mother. There's no way I can win this case. I'm sorry. And I could not get one lawyer to get it. One lawyer would not take my case because there was no way. DNA, you cannot win against DNA because they say it's so foolproof. I mean, I feel like I was just the only one in the whole world trying to fight for my kids, and nobody in the world was listening to me. So I go to court. The prosecutor, first words out of his mouth that I remember is, we would like to put these children in separate guardianships. I had no lawyer. It was me against the state with DNA evidence.
The prosecutors wanted guardians to be appointed for each child, to monitor their welfare while the investigations continued. The judge agreed, based on the existing evidence that Lydia was not the biological mother. For Lydia and Jamie, their worst fears had been confirmed.
Did I think the kids would be taken away at one point in time? I knew they would be taken away because they said that, you know, they were already setting it up for guardian parents to do that, to watch over the kids. And I just didn't, I didn't understand. It's like the kids were in danger and, you know, she's a good mom, you know? Why would they be in any danger? I just felt like that we were treated as we were just running this big old scam.
The prosecutors also put forward the laboratory's explanations for the DNA discrepancies. They were of no help to Lydia.
They brought forward many different aspects. Like, it might be she had a blood transfusion, and I go, well, she's never had one ever in her whole life. And, you know, they were saying, well, has she had any surgery? She's never had surgery other than having kids. And so, you know, there were just, every suggestion was a dead end.
Lydia was now heavily pregnant with her third child. The judge realized that this latest pregnancy could provide a vital clue to help unravel the mystery.
I said, actually, I'm doing this Monday, which was like 3 days away, to be induced. He ordered that somebody be there to witness my birth and to take blood from the baby and me right then and there, and we'll go from there.
As Lydia went into hospital, everyone's attention was focused on the birth. Would the results from the baby's DNA test show the same anomaly? That Lydia was not the mother? When she went into labor, the stakes could not have been higher.
The person that came in was a lab person, and she witnessed me give birth to the baby. She came right in, she took blood samples from the baby, and then she took swabs and stuff from me.
Lydia had an agonizing 2-week wait before the results came back.
Even after giving birth, I could, you bring your newborn home, you just, you're happy. I went home still scared because this was still going on, still scared that they can come any minute and take my kids. And I'm sitting there waiting for this DNA test to come back on the last one, and it was scared. I couldn't enjoy those moments.
I felt that the courts, if he was hers, then we would be lying about the whole thing. So it was kind of like, okay, let's hope these tests come back negative for her, because there's got to be, that's our only hope.
The results, when they came back, were arresting. The new baby's DNA showed no match with Lydia. According to the test, she was not his mother. It was what the family wanted to hear. Lydia finally got a lawyer to help her. He knew she might have to face serious accusations in court.
The other question that had gone through the prosecutor's minds was whether or not she was involved in being a surrogate mother. I mean, if the egg and sperm had been implanted in her, then she wouldn't have any relation to this child. Is it possible that she's engaged in some sort of criminal activity, or maybe she's even abducted these children from someone? I remember asking Lydia extensively, coming up with every explanation I could as to there's some sort of game being played, and she was just adamant about it. Taking her word for it, I said, well, she insists she's the mother of these children, so how are we going to find out why these tests were wrong?
It seemed that only science could provide the answers. By an extraordinary chance, it did, when the state prosecutors stumbled across a crucial new lead for the case.
The deputy prosecutor had found an article in the New England Journal of Medicine about this Chimerism. And he didn't know whether this applied to the case. He wanted me to read it. And of course, I'm not a doctor. I read it. It was very densely written in medical terminology, but it sounded, for what little I could understand of it, it was probably sounded a lot like what we were dealing with.
For the first time, the question was raised, could Lydia be a chimera? Lydia and her attorney went back to court. The judge agreed to postpone the hearing while they tried to find out more. By amazing chance, the stories of Lydia and Karen now met. The paper in the medical journal had been written by Karen Keegan's doctors, who had had a major breakthrough.
Both of my brothers, as well as my mother, donated blood samples, which were sent then to Boston. That was very important. It was really almost a turning point.
These family tests were to prove key. Comparing the DNA from family members led to a bizarre result. It looked as if Karen's sons were the descendants of her husband and her brother.
So in other words, almost if you put her brother and this patient's husband together, they will produce perfectly that two children.
Yeah,
so
that was the clue.
So so we're actually looking at that, and we start thinking, my God, how can this happen?
I remember the day she came in and said, "We're so lucky we found that your brother has the missing DNA that was not in your blood, but was in your children. And so we know that it was your father's DNA, and we know that your children are part of the larger family and therefore part of your DNA too."
Somewhere in Karen there had to be some hidden DNA, but where? The doctors were already investigating her thyroid, bladder, skin, and hair. They finally struck gold in the thyroid.
So in this case, we tested her. We found that her hair and her thyroid, the genetic system, are totally different. So we were stunned as why. It's almost like this woman is too individual. Some of her hairs carried one kind of genetic information, and the other hairs carried another, half of the genetic information. And in her tissues, other tissues, it's the same story.
At last, they had the proof they needed to show Karen was a chimera. Through even more detailed testing, the scientists then found that these two different types of DNA were present in all the tissues of her body. In most of her organs, the majority of cells contained one type of DNA, with only a few cells containing the secondary DNA. It was in just a few tissues, like her thyroid, that the secondary DNA came to the fore.
There's two genetic information. It's almost like, because we should inherit half from the parents, she inherited 100% from both. It's almost like a two individual. A Karen Keegan is two people in a one. So for this two people in a one, throughout her tissue, sometimes this one person's genetic information is dominant. In another tissues, the other genetic information is dominant.
It's almost like twins or Siamese people, but in her case, instead of being twins or Siamese, she was one individual.
Karen became a chimera because of the fusion of two fertilized eggs. The fusion happened early, sometime in the first 4 days. Any later, the embryos would have developed tissues and a nervous system, and Karen would have become Siamese twins. In her case, the two embryos were female. If one of them had been male, she would have become a hermaphrodite, just like the baby in Texas.
It is pretty weird when you think about it. I have to agree with that. It's very, I've come to understand how very, very unique a situation it is. It's not documented in that many cases around the world.
Chimerism is a little understood phenomenon. What exactly causes these fertilized eggs to fuse in the womb is still a real scientific mystery.
To grow in the uterus, and the factors in the mother in the uterus are not totally understood. One of the least phenomena known in biology, in my opinion, is what causes chimerism. This is totally unknown. Yes?
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think
so.
we're
in the beginning of understanding something that if one is a believer, that only God knows, perhaps.
With the Karen Keegan case solved, the doctors at the Beth Israel Hospital were alerted to another possible chimera case. After being approached by Lydia's lawyer, they agreed to investigate her DNA.
To date, this seems to be a very rare occurrence. We've now had the experience in a very short period of time to establish that we have one case, Karen, and then be referred within 2 years a second case.
As with Karen, the first tests the scientists undertook were on Lydia's blood.
One of the tests that our lab here was involved with was actually looking at Lydia's red cells to look to see whether or not she had a mixed population or a chimeric population of red cells. That's a way to define someone in the red cell line as being a chimera. In Lydia's case, we found no evidence in her blood of the red cells being chimeric in nature, that she had a mixed population of red cells.
But the doctors had been down this route before with Karen. They knew that blood testing was only the first step. They would need further tests on Lydia and her family. In particular, they needed tissue from Lydia, her skin and hair, and if possible, tissue from her internal organs. These tests were long and complex. It had taken the team years to finally come to a definite diagnosis in Karen's case. Would they get an answer in time for Lydia? Lydia had to go back to court to hear if she would finally be accepted as the true mother of her children. Time was running out. But the scientists on the trail of Lydia's chimerism had not finished their tests. What they could show was a definite DNA link between Lydia's children and Lydia's own mother. Just as with Karen Keegan, the DNA was in the larger family. This finding, taken together with medical records of Lydia's first 2 deliveries, was submitted to court as proof that Lydia really was the mother of her children. The evidence had an impact. The judge, who had initially questioned whether Lydia was the mother of the children, now admitted he had been wrong to doubt her. For over a year, Lydia had lived with the fear that her children would be taken away.
I just felt like when he said that, like my stomach just dropped, and I just felt like I came that close to losing my kids, and I just started bawling in court.
I really believe if little Jamie hadn't came back negative for her, that they would have took the kids.
I felt kind of relieved. I felt, okay, God made this right. You know, he gave me my children. I prayed every day. I mean, every minute of the day, it felt like I was praying, and to make this come out right.
The court concluded that Lydia was the real mother, and Jamie Townsend the father of the children, 16 months after the first DNA results had come in. Everyone involved in Lydia's case recognized its dramatic implications. In the first court hearing, the judge had openly wondered how far DNA tests could be relied upon.
He says, every single day I send fathers home because their DNA doesn't match the kids. He says, what if I was wrong? What if one of these fathers maybe had that same disease? And I told him, you cannot visit these kids, they're not yours.
The courts rely on these tests to a great degree. I mean, people go to death row because of DNA tests. People are released from death row because of DNA tests. And this was not a life or death case, but they were dealing with the same sort of science and the legal implications of that science.
DNA testing is hugely influential in criminal cases. Armies of forensic scientists are employed to look for matches between the DNA at a crime scene and a suspect. But what if the criminal is a chimera?
A person could be leaving DNA behind at a crime scene, and when he's investigated and gives a sample to the police, or she, the police may not come up with a match and exclude the person.
There might be some cases of rape where they analyze the DNA of the sperm in the woman that has been raped, and then the person is excluded based on the blood testing.
If they commit a perfect crime, all the DNA information from the blood, from the scene, may not indicate them at all.
Oh, who's taller?
Me.
I don't know about that.
After 2 years of turmoil, Lydia and Jamie are trying to get their lives back on track. They are together again and want to make a fresh start. But Lydia still feels she is under a cloud.
Yeah, you the tallest?
I feel more scared more than anything, like, what is this? And why me? And I really want to know more about it to really get to know what this really is and how it came about. I don't even know if I even know how it came about, but I would like to know more about it.
Lydia has decided to continue the investigation with the scientists in Boston to see if they can come to a proper understanding of her DNA results. Lydia and her family have provided more cheek swabs, hair, blood, and urine samples. Will they give the final proof of Lydia's chimerism? The first results have come back showing no double DNA. Lydia has now provided a cervical smear, and significantly, 2 sets of DNA have been detected in this tissue.
It would be possible. Lydia would only be chimeric in the ovaries. It would be possible.
Yes, only chimeric in the ovaries. That's possible too.
But for that you need to have samples of tissues on all the organs of the body before you come to that conclusion.
I think Lydia conceived 3 children, and so the final answer is still in her eggs.
The doctors are also hesitant about a full diagnosis of chimerism, since Lydia is now pregnant with her and Jamie's 4th child. There is a chance the double DNA in her smear could be linked to the pregnancy. Yet it seems likely that Lydia is another chimera.
I don't think of myself as a freak, no. I don't think that I'm like this weird person and whatever, because I'm still a person. I don't have different personalities. I'm a normal person. And it's just that there's something wrong with the DNA.
Both Lydia and Karen Keegan would have gone through their lives never knowing they were chimeras if they had not had DNA tests. How many more chimeras like Karen and Lydia are out there? Nobody knows. It could be many more chimeras are born than anyone had ever imagined.
It's hard to know for certain what the frequency of this occurrence is. If you don't come to attention because of a medical need and you look like a normal male or a normal female, you could have a very normal life and never come to anybody's attention.
Both my husband and I have always said that there are probably many, many more of us chimeras out there, and we just haven't had a reason to find out about them.